Hello, students, or hola, the Spanish greeting. We want to spend a little time in our video lecture series today talking about professional behavior and professional identity. So, bear with me as I switch screens and we move into today's lesson and recognize that it's very important to understand what your role is as a professional, and we'll talk about that and what behaviors are expected of you as you move into your career as a social worker. So professional identity in social work practice. We're going to talk a little bit about today about some various aspects of the actual helping profession in relationships, and so things that you need to know. So as always, you may want to think about taking notes, as there typically are exercises that are designed to accompany these videos um, for our classroom setting. So without any further ado, let's move into our discussion. Is it personal or is it professional? And often this is a very interesting question that we have to frame for ourselves in terms of the nature of the work that we do, because oftentimes when you're looking at how we do the work that we do as professionals, it can sometimes be a little bit confusing, or it could actually sometimes be tricky in terms of knowing the difference. So we'll spend a little bit of time today talking about what differentiates professional from personal. So we're going to talk about those differences. We're also going to talk about some of the characteristics and challenges of a helping relationship. We're going to talk about some of the preliminary and beginning interview skills, as well as understanding the importance of practicing active listening. So these are things that you will see again throughout your coursework. It comes up in HBSE. It also becomes a factor also in some of your other classes. So you'll hear this on a number of different occasions. So um, never hurts to hear it again. So when we think about personal relationships, think about it from this standpoint. And these are some attributes that we can associate with a personal relationship as opposed to one that is actually professional. Um, we're not paid in personal relationships. You don't get paid for helping Aunt Susan resolve some issues that are happening for her. Recognizing that oftentimes when you're dealing with families and friends and others, that this relationship might be something that goes on forever, or until someone leaves the picture in terms of death. They're spontaneous. The powers are usually equal in terms of what folks are bringing to the relationship. There's equal responsibility. You have the option to decide how much you want to give. It's a personal choice. It doesn't require any training. And there are things that you get to consider in terms of whether you continue this relationship or not, like whether you like this person or whether you don't. In a professional setting, as a social worker, things are quite a bit different, as you can see. You are paid for your time. Your interactions or your relationships, professional relationships with your clients, will be time limited. They will be structured. There is an assessment and engagement, a planning and intervention, and a termination and evaluation phase that will happen, of course, over the course of the relationship. The power differential is pretty apparent. As a social worker, you are the person with the greater responsibility, and you have the ultimate power in the relationship. So you have to be very careful and mindful of that. You have to be trained, you have to be prepared. There are typically contractual agreements that are involved when you're working with clients in the form of treatment plans or service plans. The question is not about whether you like that particular person, but it's about whether you should or whether you can work with this person, and recognizing that throughout the course of this working relationship that your client's needs will always come first. Also, when we think about characteristics of the helping relationship, think about it from the standpoint that these things that are listed here are examples of, of characteristics that you will demonstrate as a professional social worker in terms of your work with families. And so let me try to illustrate it by giving an example of what this might look like as it plays itself out. So in reality, you have a situation where you are accepting of the relationships that you're involved in for the work that you are actually doing with your client. So meeting them where they're at, and actually not judging what's happening for them. So the example I'll use to walk through would be the accepting of clients where they are. So when I work with child protection clients, for example, I make it a point to let them know that my being here is not a reflection on their ability to parent and whether they love their children. It's a dynamic piece that gives and take, where I'm providing information, they're providing information, and we're negotiating what the actual terms will be. Oftentimes that there are emotional pieces that are attached both for you as a worker as well as the families that you're working with. In that, if, for example, a child is moved from the home, there is great emotion around that for the parents and for the children, as well as sometimes for the worker. That the dynamics of your relationship are very purposeful, that they must be respectful, and they must have a degree of safety that's always paramount over the course of the time that you work with your family. So just an example of what that might actually look like. Some of the challenges that you will experience in terms of working with or working in the helping relationships will be around boundaries. It'll be around empowerment, around transference, around countertransference, as well as looking at your own histories, experiences, bias, and beliefs. So making sure that there are clear boundaries in terms of when relationship starts, what the dynamics will be, what the agreements are for what communication will look like, are all very important pieces. Empowerment, the ability for folks to actually make sure that clients are given the tools to actually empower themselves to make the changes that they need to make in their lives. Being very aware of transference and countertransference. And so making sure that you understand that there are oftentimes situations that you will encounter as a professional that might trigger things from your own past, from your own history. A client might have personality styles or traits or mannerisms like a person that you may have had struggles with in your earlier life. And so some of those things are hard to kind of work past. As well as on the opposite end, with the countertransference, you might have clients who you actually trigger that piece into. So it's about recognizing those and being able to work through those situations. And really also paying attention to our very own histories, to our own beliefs and our own biases, which undoubtedly are a part of our experience, but must be held in check in terms of making sure that we don't allow those things that are important to us to actually dominate the relationship, our working relationship with our client. So things that we'll talk more about as time goes on. The other gift I think that social work provides for all of us is that you get a chance to look at all these various aspects of who it is you are through your experiences, beliefs, morals, and so forth, and recognizing how they play a role in terms of how you see the importance of the work you do, how you connect, and how you engage with clients, the whole nine yards. So just recognizing that particular piece for what it's actually worth. Also recognizing that will be relationship building keys. So things that you'll be able to have to do and master early on in your relationship with your clients is be able to demonstrate warmth, empathy, genuineness, and a commitment to empower and to also be respectful of client self-determination. So how you approach situations, the level of interest you have, putting aside your own personal biases and judgments as you're moving into this relationship to gather information from your clients to actually help them plan and a structured plan for how they're going to change various situations in their lives. So these are all things that you will practice over the course of your coursework here through individuals and families, through interviews, through role plays in terms of being able to demonstrate warmth, empathy, genuineness, and actually being very cognizant of your responsibility to empower and to help clients define and determine their own destiny. Looking at interviewing or the beginning of the interviewing situation or circumstances is recognizing settings. Will you be in an office? Will you be in a public setting? Will you be in the client's home? All of those are things that you need to think about as you're preparing for your interview. Your appearance needs to always be professional at all times, given the circumstances and the policy that the agency has dictated and set forth. Preparing for your interview, recognizing who you're going to be talking with at any given time, what the purpose is, and being able to actually articulate the purpose in your role when you're connecting with that particular client. And then also recognizing that oftentimes initial meetings are full of anxiety for the clients as well as for you, And it's about really acknowledging that particular anxiety, paying attention to it, and through your genuineness and your warmth to try to alleviate as much of those particular things as you possibly can. Again, the preparatory skills, sitting down, having some conversations with supervisors or coworkers prior to going out, looking at arranging your questions, having time, making sure that you're demonstrating empathy, doing some self-exploration, centering thoughts, organizing feelings and sensations. So really being able to take the information that you're hearing from your client and to be able to repeat those pieces back to them in ways that help them understand what it is we're trying to do are all expectations and a part of what it is you do as a professional social worker. Also active listening, making sure that you're understanding what your goal is, what's your role, and focusing on understanding the client as opposed to giving out advice, because this is often something that we're very tempted to do, but it's about understanding what the client's actual experience is and helping them get to some conclusions about what they need to do different in terms of their life. Paying attention, as we talked about, in assertive communication to nonverbal communication, body, facial, speech, making sure that you're listening, you're doing reflective listening in terms of understanding, paraphrasing, and giving examples of what you heard back to clients for clarification to make sure that everyone's operating with the same information. So these are some of the things that you will need to learn to master as you continue to develop your identity as a professional social worker. And so we would just encourage you to ask questions and to be prepared for our in-class activities that will be connected to this particular presentation. So thank you and good luck.